What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Anthony Hadley Jr. I am a Los Angeles-based creative that makes content predominantly revolving around film, lifestyle, and tech. So I've worked professionally in film and videography for a few years now, and I've used a few different cameras, but I will say predominantly what I've used have been Blackmagic cameras. But if I'm being honest, for quite some time now, I have been looking to upgrade my camera, ideally to something like a Red. If for no other reason than for their R3D codec and their 16-bit depth for color grading. Now, like many of us on YouTube and probably in the world in general that have gear acquisition syndrome, I've spent far too much time focusing on what my next purchase could be rather than taking the time to master the tools that I have at my disposal. But what that did was leave me in a situation where I felt frustrated because I truly believed that I could not achieve the grades that I wanted, whether that included the clean and crisp whites or the color separation that I saw on some of these higher end cameras. But somewhere along the way, as I continued using my camera and refining my own post-production process, I began to figure out how to achieve those grades that I wanted with the tools that I already had. Now, as I always say, I am not an expert, and I definitely have not reached anywhere near what I would call a level of mastery in anything that I do. But I would say I am on my path, and today I want to show you the steps that I've taken to get there. So let's jump into it now. So as we jump into the color page, you can see I have a pre-built node tree or power grade that's already built out that covers pretty much any types of grades that I need to do except for specific scenarios. And most of these are already going to be labeled so you can kind of see whether it's going to be noise reduction, white balance. I think this is base color correction, contrast, saturation, my blacks, mids, highlights, offset, global, HDR, and this is a blank note in case something random or miscellaneous pops up before I do what I always do downstream, which is a color space transform. I'll leave this pretty far downstream, so that way once I apply the color space transform, I have all of these nodes before it to make all the changes before I compress everything into a Rec 709 color space. And then I keep a couple more serial nodes afterwards in case I need to do anything else specifically or any specialty things after I have my color space transform. First thing I'll do typically is make sure that all my settings are where I need them to be for my camera raw, which are already there. Decode quality, use project settings. Something is big, decode using clip instead of, I think typically it's set for project. But once we go clip, then I can pick my color science. This, of course, I'm going to use the newest one, which is Gen 5, which is actually interesting because I shot this on Gen 4. But after the update, I was allowed to use Gen 5, so that's great. And then something else I always try to do is click my highlight recovery node. Now from there, what I typically like to do is I will either start in one or two places. Either it's going to be white balance or offset. At some point I must have done my white balance on here, but I am going to, let's just reset everything and I will do this in real time. Let me just reset, great. Ooh, wow. All right. Reset node grade. Okay. So I am going to, let's just see what the white balance would do. Let's go here. Based on this, that's not terrible. That will put me there. Let's turn that off. And let's go to my offset. My Vectorscope is already pulled up. So I will go to my offset and try to get this as balanced as possible while retaining the information in the skin tones where I want them to be. I also, as you can see, I have my skin tone indicator right there. So let me turn that off, turn that on. A little bit different, but I like having the control of my offset so I can push and pull as much as I want to in any specific areas. So you can get it as neutral as you want, but also if you want to lean in a certain direction, your offset will allow you to do that. But I think since this was a song about love, we will leave it a little warmer. Let's get away from the greens a bit. Somewhere around there. So offset. Anything else? Color space, offset. So then I will jump back into my waveform. Everything is pretty equally distributed. Also, let me just kind of go through to see. in this area, at least if there's a big lighting change. And I'll leave it there. Okay. If I expose to the right, which I usually do, but I did not as much in this shot, I would go to my global settings and then I would adjust everything and bring it down a bit. But since I do not need to, I am just going to hit my blacks just a bit. Go too far, which I don't want to do. Um, these levels are actually pretty good, so I'm just going to go to my shadows and my log wheels, bring this down a bit. Don't want to crush anything, but I do like punchy blacks, especially like with the hair. So I like that. Let's get out of low. Actually, I'll stay in logs for a minute because I'm going to go to my midtones. Bring this up just a bit. And because I've done that, I want to go back to my blacks. Now I'm back in my primaries. Drop this down one. Because I've done that, I want to split the difference. Bring up the shadows a bit. Somewhere like that. Um, yeah, somewhere like that. Okay. So that's good. Let's get out of the log wheels because I always leave it there and then I forget. Kind of got lucky on this one because this is exposed pretty well given the scenario. We are going to have a few issues right here with this window. And of course, when the light changes when we move. But for now, I think this will work as far as the exposure goes. But I do want to play with the HDR palette. So I will go here, color space, choose gamma. Pretty sure this is going to be somewhat of a specular highlight, but let's just double check. Yep. Um, Once again, it works because we all subconsciously and consciously know that this light source is coming from a window. So if it is blown out a little bit, nobody's going to really stress too much. But also, technically, it's not blown out. So actually, I'm going to leave that. Let me just reset that. Let's go to highlight. Nope. So I will go to the light and adjust things just a bit. Just to give us a little more contrast. Another reason I tend to keep one of these nodes right here, Command L to label. I'm going to make it a skin node. Let's go Shift H, go to my qualifier. Oh, buddy. Just this a little bit. Okay. And then we will denoise quite a bit. And then the main thing I'm going to do is, let's get out of here, go back to here, primaries, hit a little bit of color boost. See what 9 does. I like that. Brings out the skin tones just a little bit, warms it up just a little bit, gives it a little bit more life. And the next, let's do a couple HSL. One. Okay, this is going to be a little difficult. So I have 3 colors. I have to choose 2 just based on this, based on the nodes that I have. Definitely want to pull out the pink. Oh no, I messed that up. Here. Pull out the pink. That saturation. I think we'll take the green because the blue may catch this. So let's go here. But can we do it properly? Yep. I pop a little bit. But now I think this is a little too saturated. Wait a minute. Yep. What I'm noticing now is that HSL node is bringing up too much in the skin tone, so I'm going to have to cancel that one. Now that I've made some change, actually, what I'm going to do is put that there, and then I'm going to go back to my offset first, check my vector scopes, and see if I can split the difference on some of this. Her skin just seems. It actually works though. But what I may do is go to the saturation node and then drop this down to 45. Split that difference. If this was a film, I probably wouldn't do this. I'd have it a little bit more desaturated, but since this was a summertime music video and the skin tones complement the ceiling area, but also pop off of most of the white background, I like this. What I'm also seeing in here is I'm introducing a moderate amount of noise with the colors. Also, that happens when you shoot at a higher ISO. The second base ISO of this camera is 3200, which I think we are at. But I find that there's going to be a lot more noise, at least in the Pocket 4K. In that case, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to select 3 frames. I'm going to leave these two together. Push this to somewhere around 10, 9.9. I will unlink the spatial threshold and just do a little bit here. Just basically barely touching the luma, and then a little bit more on the chroma. And I think if we go to the waveform, oh no, yeah, there we go. If we go to the waveform, you can see it's pulling a little bit of noise out of this area right here. Okay, so I will do that. It's still a little bit punchy. I'll do 42. I like that. I like 42. I think I will go back to my HDR as well and pull up this area. I think that's fine. And then I'll do a little bit in the shadows right here. Leave that. And then I think there's nothing else. Yeah, I think I kind of like this. Now, granted, this playback is going to be a little bit slow because I am using about 15 nodes, and one of them being a noise reduction, and I'm doing a screen recording on here. But once again, keep in mind, this is all on a M1 base level MacBook Air. So anybody that's ever thinking about making a entry level purchase, if you're not doing anything too crazy, this is 4K footage. It is possible to grade and edit on a base level M1 MacBook Air. If you can spend a little more money, I would definitely recommend it, but don't let that higher price point stop you from getting started where you need to. But yeah, this is typically how I build out my grades. It's going to be a little bit different based on the necessity for the shots, but it typically starts like this, and I use the nodes that I need based on the shots, and certain ones I will leave and certain ones I will build onto if it is needed. And there you have it. Let me know where you are in your color grading journey below, and if you have any tips or suggestions, I'll be happy to hear them. And until then, I will see you all in the next one.